Well, I came here today to say, as a man, that this is wrong, this is toxic.
Viewers, brace yourselves, because Blake Lively has now crossed a line that even seasoned Hollywood insiders are calling petty, desperate, and dangerously overreaching. The actress, long celebrated for her immaculate red carpet appearances and perfectly polished family image on Instagram, has begun targeting some of the smallest voices on social media, influencers with barely 40 followers, independent creators still finding their footing, and even established journalists like Megyn Kelly, simply for asking legitimate questions or reporting facts that do not align with the spotless narrative she and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, have spent years crafting. Instead of addressing the increasingly unstable foundation of her own legal battle with Justin Baldoni, Blake has chosen to weaponize her legal team, issuing sweeping subpoenas intended not to seek truth, but to intimidate, silence, and exert dominance. The courtroom, rather than being used as a space for justice, has become a strategic tool for harassment and narrative control. This is not a pursuit of honesty or accountability. It is a calculated effort to maintain a public image at all costs, punishing anyone who dares to step outside the boundaries of the Hollywood fairy tale she and Ryan continue to market to the world. Megyn Kelly recently revealed on her program that Blake's lawyers attempted to force her to surrender private emails, editorial deliberations, and confidential communications with sources, a direct attack on journalistic independence and a chilling indication of just how far Blake's camp is willing to go to preserve their version of events. The hypocrisy is staggering. Blake's own lawsuit stems from a flimsy, uncorroborated harassment allegation against Baldoni, a claim already showing signs of collapse as new evidence comes to light. Yet rather than confront the fragility of her case, she has opted to lash outwards, targeting anyone who dares highlight inconsistencies, unanswered questions, or troubling behavior. What makes this escalation even more alarming is that it extends far beyond public figures with platforms and lawyers of their own. Blake is deploying an entire legal apparatus against ordinary individuals, small creators, podcast hosts, minor commentators, and everyday influencers who lack the money, power, or connections needed to defend themselves effectively. These people, many of whom produce content as a hobby or side passion, are now being thrust into the center of a high-profile legal storm, simply for sharing opinions or reporting publicly available information. The scope of this effort is astonishing, revealing the unsettling lengths to which a celebrity couple will go to control the narrative surrounding them. What began as a personal legal dispute has mutated into a widespread campaign of intimidation, designed to suppress critical voices and preserve a carefully curated illusion of perfection. Both the public and the press now find themselves caught in the crossfire as Blake Lively's increasingly aggressive tactics expose a far more calculated, ruthless desire for image management that stretches far beyond the courtroom. Many of the targeted social media accounts had fewer than 50 followers, hardly platforms capable of influencing wider public opinion. Yet they were still served with subpoenas demanding private messages, source information, and even unpublished notes. Legal experts have labeled this behavior a textbook example of bullying disguised as legitimate litigation. One attorney even compared the entire situation to a class action cash grab, noting that the only true beneficiaries appear to be the lawyers collecting exorbitant fees, while Justin Baldoni absorbs the financial brunt of endless motions, depositions, and subpoenas designed to drain resources and exhaust opposition. This is financial warfare disguised as justice. And the most unsettling part is that it has very little to do with actually winning in court. Instead, it is about silencing critics, about sending a chilling message that anyone who dares to question or contradict Blake Lively risks being dragged into an exhausting, financially crippling legal battle. Ryan Reynolds is reportedly fully aligned with Blake on this scorched earth strategy, using a potent mix of fame, wealth, and Hollywood public relations machinery to intimidate, overwhelm, and ultimately crush anyone who challenges the narrative they are so desperate to protect. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni is left fighting for his reputation, career, and personal integrity against what increasingly resembles a deeply personal vendetta rather than a legitimate legal claim. From the very beginning, Blake's allegations of harassment have appeared unstable, lacking the substance or consistency required to withstand serious scrutiny. Now, with depositions underway and production footage under close review, legal analysts and industry insiders are openly describing her assertions as specious, a polite, legalistic way of saying weak, flimsy, and unsupported by any real evidence. In short, there is smoke but no fire. Multiple reports confirm a simple but damning truth. Blake's version of events does not match the documented evidence. She claimed misconduct on set, yet the footage from those same filming days tells a completely different story, one that not only undermines her allegations but outright contradicts them. This is not merely inconvenient for her case. It is professionally embarrassing and potentially devastating to her credibility. A panelist on Megyn Kelly's program made a crucial observation. Public opinion has not turned against Blake because of anything Baldoni has done. Rather, it has shifted because of Blake's own conduct, the arrogance, the overreach, and the blatant weaponization of the legal system to intimidate others into silence. Through all of this, Baldoni has maintained a remarkably calm and measured demeanor. He has refused to engage in public mudslinging, avoided staged photo opportunities, and declined to manipulate the tabloids, choosing instead to focus solely on defending himself with facts and evidence. The contrast could not be more striking. On one side is Baldoni, the target of unproven and increasingly doubtful accusations, quietly building his defense. On the other is a celebrity couple deploying fame, wealth, and aggressive legal maneuvers to manipulate narratives, intimidate critics, and protect their carefully curated public image. It reveals the high-stakes drama and ruthless tactics that Hollywood elites are willing to employ when they feel their reputations are slipping, while Baldoni attempts to safeguard his name, draining his resources simply to fend off claims that appear more fragile by the day. Blake Lively escalates at every turn. Each time evidence weakens her position, she does not pause or reconsider. Instead, she doubles down, adding new targets, issuing fresh subpoenas, and seizing upon any distraction that might redirect public attention away from the inconvenient truth. This is not about justice. It is about optics. And with Ryan Reynolds reportedly fully committed to this approach, they are orchestrating one of the most aggressive PR offensives Hollywood has witnessed in years. Insiders describe the entire campaign as less a legal strategy and more a full-scale public relations spectacle. After all, Blake and Ryan's careers have been meticulously built on branding. The perfect couple facade, the charming Instagram exchanges, the meticulously styled red carpet appearances. It is a highly polished image, but one that begins to crack the moment it encounters genuine scrutiny. That is precisely why Blake has extended her legal aggression towards small influencers, podcasters, and reporters. It is not about combating misinformation. It is about controlling the narrative and punishing anyone who threatens the fairy tale persona she and Ryan have sold to the public for years. The aim is clear: maintain the illusion, crush dissent, and ensure that the truth, however inconvenient, never gains traction. Even Megyn Kelly compared their behavior to that of Harry and Meghan Markle, celebrities known for litigating against critics rather than responding to reality. True A-listers understand that criticism is part of fame. They don't drag bloggers with 40 followers into court. Blake and Ryan, however, seem thin-skinned and terrified of appearing anything less than perfect, resorting to subpoenas and intimidation to prove a point. Yet every aggressive move only exposes the fragility of their Hollywood image. Each subpoena, each legal attack on free speech, weakens their credibility and reveals the insecurity behind the facade. What began as a personal legal dispute with Justin Baldoni has now expanded into a challenge to broader principles, including the First Amendment. Reporters and influencers are protected by free speech and have the right to investigate, question, and critique, including the right to safeguard their sources. But Blake's subpoenas demand private emails, draft notes, and behind-the-scenes communications that journalists depend on, making the whole effort not just invasive but bordering on unconstitutional overreach. Meanwhile, the contrast could not be clearer. Baldoni remains composed, relying on facts and evidence, while Blake and Ryan escalate, weaponizing their fame and wealth against ordinary creators and journalists. In doing so, they have turned a legal confrontation into a cautionary tale about celebrity power, media manipulation, and the dangers of letting image control overshadow truth. The fallout is no longer personal. It strikes at the heart of free speech, accountability, and the very norms that protect independent voices in Hollywood and beyond. Experts have gone so far as to call Blake Lively's actions an abuse of power, a level of overreach more typical of a political scandal than a Hollywood actress, And this is not simply a case of a big name targeting small creators. If Blake can weaponize the courts to intimidate low-level influencers, what precedent does that set for anyone daring to question a celebrity narrative? What message does it send when the rich and famous can silence critics at will? One attorney has even offered to represent these small creators pro bono, describing Blake's tactics as distasteful and extreme. This is neither normal nor professional behavior. It is a celebrity using wealth to crush and erase voices she dislikes. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni has not tried to silence a single critic. He isn't suing influencers, nor is he subpoenaing journalists. He is defending himself with facts, while Blake and Ryan Reynolds escalate with threats and intimidation. Let's call it what it is. This isn't about justice, it's about censorship and narrative control, bulldozing anyone who dares challenge their preferred story. And that is precisely why this battle matters. If Blake Lively can get away with targeting ordinary people, then free speech itself is under threat. The harsh reality Hollywood refuses to acknowledge is that this lawsuit looks less like a legal case led by attorneys and more like one orchestrated by PR strategists, which is far worse. Real legal cases rely on evidence, facts, and courtroom arguments. PR-driven litigation relies on optics, controlling headlines, and portraying Blake and Ryan as victims rather than aggressors. Even legal analysts on Megyn Kelly's show have described it plainly. This feels less like a legitimate courtroom battle and more like a PR campaign masquerading as legal strategy, a desperate attempt to manipulate public perception. When a case is truly solid, you don't subpoena nobodies with 40 followers, bully reporters into surrendering private notes, or drag litigation out in an attempt to financially exhaust your opponent. Those aren't the actions of confident people. They're the actions of people who are scared. Scared the public will see cracks in their perfect image. Scared their flimsy claims against Baldoni will collapse. Scared that their carefully curated Hollywood brand will crumble the moment real scrutiny touches it. The irony is brutal. Every PR stunt designed to protect their image only makes them look weaker. Every filing intended to silence critics fuels the story, and every attempt to shield their brand exposes just how fragile it truly is. Meanwhile, Baldoni doesn't need a PR army. His defense rests on facts, evidence, and the truth, and the more Blake lashes out, the more undeniable the contrast becomes. This isn't a legal strategy. It's a smoke and mirrors circus meant to distract from reality. And like all PR-driven spectacles, it's destined to backfire. The scandal only intensifies when you look at Blake and Ryan's obsession with the spotlight. Their entire brand is built on appearing relatable, funny, charming, and effortlessly perfect. From polished Instagram jokes to staged red carpet banter to carefully crafted interviews, they thrive on attention because attention sells films, endorsements, and influence. But the moment the spotlight turns critical, it suddenly becomes a problem. Suddenly they play the victims. Suddenly Blake sends lawyers after small-time creators for doing exactly what the media has always done, asking questions, reporting facts, and refusing to bow to celebrity control. And in doing so, she exposes just how delicate and manufactured that perfect image really is. Blake Lively's behavior goes beyond being thin-skinned, it's outright hypocritical. You cannot build a career and an empire on public attention, only to attack anyone who offers the wrong kind of attention. You cannot cash in on fame and then cry foul when scrutiny comes with it. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni hasn't staged sentimental family posts, crafted PR-friendly Instagram moments, or dripped tabloid fluff into the public sphere. He's simply defended his name against false claims, and the contrast could not be more obvious. As Megyn Kelly pointed out, real stars understand that criticism comes with fame. They don't chase down every blogger or reporter because their talent and reputation speak for themselves. Blake and Ryan clearly lack that security. At its core, this case isn't about justice or truth, it's about control. And control always slips the moment real facts begin to surface. Blake's bullying didn't stop at subpoenas. Her demands toward journalists like Kelly revealed just how reckless, arrogant, and deeply misguided her strategy has become. In Kelly's telling, Blake's legal team didn't simply request interview footage. They pushed far beyond that, seeking internal emails, draft notes, private communications between Kelly and her staff, and even the preparation materials her producers assembled before the show. The implication was astonishing that Blake Lively believed she could reach directly into a newsroom and demand access to journalists' private work, a move portrayed by critics as bold, intrusive, and fundamentally dismissive of the norms that protect press freedom. Journalists are expected to safeguard their sources, their research, and the integrity of their process. Yet this legal pressure was seen as threatening all of that. The reaction was swift. Rather than cowing Kelly, it galvanized her. She vowed publicly to challenge Blake in court regardless of cost, insisting she would spend whatever was necessary to ensure the legal overreach failed. Many seasoned reporters interpreted the entire clash not as a search for evidence or clarity in the Baldoni matter, but as an exercise in power, an attempt to control the narrative and suppress dissenting voices. And every move that appeared aimed at tightening that control only reinforced perceptions of insecurity. Truly powerful figures don't need to silence critics. Only uncertain ones attempt it. Blake may have sought control, but she was met with open resistance instead. What began as a celebrity legal dispute has evolved, at least in public perception, into a wider struggle over transparency and truth. On one side stands Justin Baldoni, framed by supporters as a director, actor, and father defending himself without orchestrating headlines or engaging in media theatrics, while evidence in the public domain is argued to counter the claims against him. On the other side are Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, portrayed by critics as image-conscious celebrities, fighting to shield a carefully curated public persona, using subpoenas, legal maneuvers, and high-profile visibility to challenge critics and influence perception. Commentators argue that every perceived overreach, every PR-driven filing, and every attempt to silence critics only backfires, drawing attention to the fragility of Blake and Ryan's public image. To observers, this has become a sharp lesson in what happens when fame, wealth, and influence appear to be used not for justice but for intimidation and narrative control. The very tactics intended to protect their brand instead shine a brighter light on how desperate and secure and reckless the campaign has begun to look, and the world is watching it unravel in real time. In this public framing, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are depicted as taking drastic measures, deploying legal teams, leaning on subpoenas, and turning court filings into media spectacles, prioritizing image over fact and leaving ordinary people caught in the crossfire. As some critics see it, the story is no longer about whether Justin Baldoni is guilty or innocent, especially as supporters claim his defense is strong, and the allegations against him are thin, but about whether powerful celebrities can wield privilege, influence, and Hollywood status to reshape reality and suppress independent voices, from small creators with barely any followers to seasoned reporters. Critics argue that the legal pressure sends a single message: disagree with the narrative, and you may be met with relentless pushback. Yet the harder the pressure is applied, the more the cracks appear. Flimsy claims, agresivas supoenas, and intimidating gestures are read by many as signs of desperation and insecurity rather than strength. The case, as many now see it, has grown far beyond Baldoni himself. It has evolved into a symbolic question. Can truth withstand spin? Can evidence survive against celebrity influence? Do independent voices still stand a chance when fame and wealth are turned into weapons? Every aggressive move, subpoenas, threats, attempts to control coverage does not secure victory. Critics say it only intensifies public scrutiny and exposes deeper weaknesses in the strategy. The pattern, to observers, has become unmistakable: fear, arrogance, and a willingness to go after anyone who threatens a carefully curated Hollywood image. And even as efforts are made to control the narrative, the cracks show through. Each move reveals just how fragile that empire may be. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni continues to present himself with composure, declining to engage in theatrics, relying on documentation and measured responses rather than media battles. Supporters argue that this posture highlights the contrast between image-driven offensives and a steadier, fact-based defense. To many, this is not merely a lawsuit. It has become a battleground for accountability, a contest over whether wealth and status can drown out smaller voices. And in the eyes of critics, this moment may be remembered not as a quest for justice, but as the point where a glossy Hollywood image began to crack under its own weight, pulling Ryan Reynolds into the fallout as well. Every attempt to pressure reporters, shape media coverage, or intimidate small creators appears only to deepen public concern and heighten scrutiny. The polished facade has slipped, the cracks are visible, and the idealized image of the perfect celebrity couple seems to be unraveling under the spotlight. They may have sought control, but what they have ignited instead is backlash, a growing wave of public examination that no amount of PR or legal muscle can entirely contain. In contrast, Baldoni's restrained, evidence-centered approach continues to underscore the difference between manufactured optics and genuine accountability. The stakes feel larger than the individuals involved. This is now framed as a struggle over whether truth can survive power, whether evidence can triumph over ego, and whether Hollywood privilege can be held in check. Critics claim Blake and Ryan are losing ground, and the empire built on illusion is beginning to weaken as the public watches closely. The evidence continues to emerge, the scrutiny intensifies, and the fight for transparency, as supporters frame it, is only just beginning. Now the question is yours. In the court of public opinion, will these tactics ultimately backfire, or will Hollywood privilege once again offer protection? Share your thoughts, stay engaged, and follow the unfolding story as this high-stakes battle continues to develop.